Good-Natured World headquarters. That's going to have to do. So I walked to work today, and lots of leaves on the ground. And I had an opportunity. I was walking over here on 4th Street, 4 blocks west of the river here in St. Charles. And there's a couple of, I believe they're sugar maples. I've always had trouble distinguishing sugar maples from black maples in terms of the bark and the leaves, but these were definitely not Norway maples, which are all over our fair town. The Norway maples and the sugar maples, they have leaves that look really similar. And the field guides always talk about how the lobes are, there's a deeper cut when it comes to one versus the other. I was looking at them today. I was standing underneath what I think is the sugar maples, and then I went over and I was picking up leaves underneath the Norway maples, and I walk past those houses all the time, so I'm sure the people who live there are used to seeing me poking around in their trees. But I pick up these leaves. And I started, comparing them. Now I tried to get a couple that were about the same size, so that we could take that part away from the equation. This leaf, you see these cuts here in between these two side lobes? Look how close, what would that be? Acute the angle is. And look on this leaf, how this is almost a 90-degree angle. This is our Norway. This is our alleged sugar maple. So, reading the field guides is helpful, but going out and just putting actual nature in your hands sometimes can help clear something up. Like, I've struggled with this for a long time. Another trick you can do at other times of the year, you can just pluck a leaf off. The Norway maple will have a milky sap that you can see at the base of the leaf, and the sugar maple has a clear sap. You don't see a milky sap with that one. But once again, the deep acute cuts here, Norway, the open, more wider, almost 90-degree angle is the sugar maple. Let's see, these are some smaller leaves. In fact, most of the leaves that were underneath the sugar maple were really brown and crispy already. But again, you can see that wide open angle. Here's a brown one from the Norway. See how sharp the angle is up here. So color, yeah, can't always go by color, but the shape of the leaf will give away. Now I kind of want to look at a Canadian flag and see which maple variation they use. All right, up with leaf ID. Let's take a look at this week's slides. I'll get our screen share going here. Here we go. And I'll pick up where we left off here. All right. Take it up to the beginning. All right. So, what we're looking at here is a photo I took somewhat illegally. You might recognize it as Mooseheart Road. Looking, let's see, that would be looking north. Here's Mooseheart Stadium. If we are able to zoom in here a little bit. Yep. Let's try that again. If we're able to zoom in here a little bit, see the pile of wood chips there? That's where the Mooseheart eagle nest tree was. It's gone, came down last, I believe that was Wednesday. It was October 26th, about 8 o'clock in the morning. I was not there. Read lots of online reports of it. There was several news stations that were out there covering this very interesting local nature news event. We talked about this when we talked about the event last week. How many people were up in arms about it. There's people that are angry at Mooseheart saying, you know, how could you do this? I really think people think that birds live in nests the way people live in houses. Now, with that said, the Mooseheart eagles did hang out around this nest a lot, but as wild animals, they, I don't know if we call it an understanding, but they somehow they know, you know, it might not be there all the time. Things happen, storms come through, winds blow. I think that the people were taking the removal of this nest a lot harder than the eagles were. Several of the local wildlife photographers have posted pictures of the eagles since then. They're hanging out nearby. They have two favorite trees in the area, cottonwood and a white pine tree. And the current thinking is that the white pine may become the new home base. But again, it's not nesting season. So the nest, the tree that was removed, the nest was considered to be inactive at that time because there were no eggs or nestlings inside of it. So anyway, there's the photo and the documented evidence of the tree that's no longer there. Be anxious to see where they start building, because before we know it, it'll be eagle breeding season again. All right, so this is a plant that grows all over, and I do mean all over my mom's house. This is what it looks like right now. This is what it looked like just a month or so ago. This is our local native Clematis. It's called Virgin's Bower. And it propagates in many ways. So it's extremely prolific. Some would call it an aggressive grower. Some would call it an invasive grower. But I call it really pretty. It does take over. If you do not use a heavy hand in managing this plant, it will take over. I have a hard time opening the gate at my mom's house because of the way the vines have taken over. I mow it. The seeds have fallen all over the backyard, and little shoots are coming up all the time. If you're interested in any, let me know. It'd be real easy to dig some up. But I just think, well, the flowers, they have a wonderful, it's a late blooming plant. So, you know, when other flowers are going away in August and September, these guys are just getting going. It's a pleasant, sweet fragrance that it lets out. And when it goes to seed, look at these things. Here's the seed. Look at these beautiful, fluffy little tendrils that come off of it. When these fall, they sometimes these plumes here can catch a little bit of wind. They can travel a short distance. But if we zoom in on this, I just thought these were just so pretty. I know some of you are kind of artistically inclined. This might be a nice subject to draw or paint. But anyway, yeah, a lot of the Clematis varieties we see growing around here are cultivars or non-native species, but this is a species that is considered native to Illinois. Pretty cool, huh? Just keep it under control if you do decide to add it, because it will take over. So our friends Carol and George sent us this spider. We were actually down at the WGN studios last Friday talking about spiders in the spirit of the Halloween season. And right after that, Carol was outside and she happened to catch sight of this pretty lady on the side of their house. It's a seasonal favorite spider. Some of you might already recognize it. The scientific name is Iranius marmorius. It's sometimes called the marbled orb weaver, but again, in keeping with the theme of the season, it's also called the pumpkin orb weaver. Now, so we've said many times when we talk about whether it's spiders or frogs or there's several different organisms where color is not always the best way to identify a species. Sometimes you got to look at structure. But this one with this bright, sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's yellow, but there's marked, very obvious banding on the legs. That's another thing we look for. And then this time of the year that we're seeing them, they are very obvious as we get into middle to late fall. I believe this is a species that does not survive year to year. Only I base that on personal experience, and it has to do with the spider here. This was given to me by a reader down in Batavia. This was a few years ago. It was boy, I should have looked at the date on the file. I want to say it was 2018, so that would make it 4 years ago. But it was 4 years ago to the day. I remember it was the day after Halloween that she found this spider. She was out in her yard cleaning up, and she thought she saw this bright yellow thing in the grass. She thought it was a ring that had fallen. A child who was a trick-or-treater had dropped. Imagine her surprise when she picks it up and it runs up her sleeve. So she brought it inside like a good-natured nerd would do, and she put it in a little deli cup. She called me. I came and picked it up. The very next day, I put it in I put some damp leaves in the deli cup because humidity is so important to these guys. And the very next day, look at the size of this egg case she laid. This egg sac that she created is like twice as big as her. I think there is some expansion that occurs, as the silk wrappings come out of her body, as the eggs come out of her body. But if you're lucky enough, you might have pumpkin spiders by your house. I'm always looking. In fact, I had high hopes of introducing some around my house with this egg sac. I wanted to keep it cool. This is a good lesson too. I wanted to keep it cool. So I put it in the garage. I left the lid ajar so it wouldn't, get too moldy or anything inside there. And the garage mousies found it and ate it because it's protein. So my little experiment didn't work, but maybe you'd have better luck locating some around your house. They're super cool spiders. They are orb weavers. So they'll make some pretty webs along the way too. But it is the season for the marbled, also known as the pumpkin orb weaver. Now, Diane, we're gonna, in fact, Diane gets credit for a lot of tonight's program. She had some really interesting photos from her travels. This mushroom aficionados might recognize as a hen of the woods. But that is not hen of the woods habitat, is it? That's Diane, I don't know if you're on tonight. This is a farmer's market, I believe.
I am. It's a historic West Side Farmers Market in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. And oops, oh, I did it again. Let's go back. So yeah, it's illegal to harvest them apparently, and so they bring them down.
Right. Well, I talked to the vendor, and he said that I when I asked him about it, and then I explained to him that I was working on a survey of mushrooms in Illinois, and so we carried on this conversation, and then he said that they weren't able to get hen of the woods in Ohio because it was protected. I don't know if it was protected or I don't know, but for some reason they were not able to, there were reasons that they were unable to purchase it in Ohio. Okay. So they were able to purchase these clusters of mushrooms from a vendor in Michigan.
And it was selling for, I believe
it was $25 a cluster.
Wow. So, John and Bobby, I know you guys have been on a Hen of the Woods tear. If you're traveling through Ohio, maybe you could,
Yeah, drop
gas
them
money.
off at the West Side Market.
Yeah, and I find that's so interesting. And now, so the park district, we do have a no collecting rule that spans across our parks, but I know it's been bent a time or two when it comes to mushrooms, because the mushroom, it's the fruiting body of a much, of the rest of the organism. The fungus itself, the fungal body is below ground. This is just how it reproduces. It sends these structures out so that it can get its spores dispersed. But and I know, like the Illinois state parks, they allow mushroom collecting because they know they'll come back. You can't possibly, well, I guess you could if you dug around, take the whole thing, but yeah, I'll have to read up a little bit more on the status in Ohio and if there's other things they have protected there as well. But
Yeah, so I'll look
nice.
into that too. And I've got a lot of friends in Ohio, so maybe somebody can give me some information about that. The vendor didn't give me that much information about it, about why they couldn't get them in Ohio. Maybe they got a better price from Michigan. I don't know.
Oh, well, maybe it's a less effort to buy them from Michigan than it is to go and try and find
Exactly. But I'll see what I can find out.
Okay. Well, and we need to talk to the Forest Preserve District about getting all the fungus monitors, like, badges or ID cards, so you can whip them out at farmers markets and, do investigative reporting.
Exactly.
So Diane, these next pictures are all from you too. This was a little buddy you found as well. Were you able to identify? I know you said that you thought it was a hoverfly.
I did. I mean, it matched the hoverfly exactly. But then when I looked at it again, I realized that a hoverfly has really short antennae.
Uh-huh.
And also, my photos aren't that good, but I think a hoverfly only has one pair of wings.
Yes. Yeah, they're
And
different.
this one appears to have two pairs. So so then I thought, well, it must be in the wasp family.
It is. So
But that's as far as I got.
Okay, I'm pretty sure, because of the brown color up here, I'm pretty sure this is a European hornet. So it's a non-native species, but I think it's present in over half, I think most of the eastern United States. I don't know if we have them in northern Illinois, but I know they've been seen in southern Illinois. Was this species pretty large, Di? Was it, did it look noticeably big to you? Did my speakers go out again? I'll apologize, Diane, if you're talking, because I don't hear anything. But that brown coloring up here on the thorax and around the head, that's a giveaway. And then these teardrop markings down the sides. The European hornet, it is actually a true hornet, which our bald-faced hornets here in the States are not true hornets. They are paper wasps. But the European species, its genus name is Vespa, like the scooters. They're named, and rightly so, the way they scoot around, they share the same name with this lovely creature. So yeah, the tip off for these guys is the brown on the forward part of the body, and then the teardrops here on the sides. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And then you also shared some space with this guy, and you were dead on with your idea of a ground beetle. This is a species you want to encourage too, because they eat other insects, and you can tell. Look at those mandibles up here! Holy cow! They can pinch. They're not the classic pinching bugs. I think around here anyway, the ones we call pinching bugs are stag beetles. But these guys, as adults, they do a really good job of feeding on other insects. So part of the good guy team. Sprickets is the genus name. I don't know the species. There's a few different ones, and you have to get kind of up close and personal, looking at the parts to make the identifications. There is a similar genus of beetle that has a more beaded appearance to the antennae, but this is by all appearances here, this is a Sprickets ground beetle of some sort. And again, a nice one to have around. Let's go on here. So Diane, you were in your son's basement, is that correct?
Right. And this was the most interesting of everything I sent you today.
I loved it. And tell me again, and tell us all how you
Okay, so I've been staying in Maryland at my son's, since mid-June for some medical issues in his family. But anyway, there's a guest bedroom down the basement, and it's pretty damp, and there's all kinds of creatures down there. But I woke up one morning, and this was in October. I woke up one morning and I saw this, what I was sure was a spider. Now, granted, I didn't have my glasses on, and it was probably 3 feet away from me, but I thought for sure it was a spider. And I try not to kill spiders, but I did stamp my foot on the ground to kind of scare it to go back under the closet door.
Go away.
And when I did that, it leaped at me. I mean, like 18 to 24 inches off the ground, it came at me. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is not spider behavior whatsoever.
Well,
so then I took I got my phone and I took some photos and I took a closer look. And of course, if you look carefully now, this is not a great picture, but there are 6 legs, and the back 2 legs they look like cricket legs to me.
Well,
so
and if here, I'll move on.
there, thank you. So then I immediately went to Google it, and all I could think of was spider cricket, and sure enough, it popped up. Spider cricket, camel cricket, cave cricket. They're all, this common name for this creature. And sure enough, they don't really attack you, but they are known to jump at a target. So that's what had happened. But I did my reading on it, and that's what it was. And I had never seen anything like that, or had never heard of a spider cricket.
Well, and it's weird, so my folks built the home that my mom is still in 1966. I think we moved in 67, just in time for the big snow. But so we didn't have a lot of spiders. But there was like one kind of spider, and I was always kind of bummed because I'd go to my friends' houses and they had these cool, the house was like 100 years old and they had all kinds of cool things living in it. And we just had this one spider, which I later learned was the yellow sack spider. And it's one of the few spiders we have around here that can actually bite people. If I'd known that back then, and I would have thought they were pretty cool. But to me, they were just kind of boring because they were all the same. And then after my dad started putting in the landscaping around the house, these guys showed up, and never seen them before. But my poor mother, she the washer and the dryer and her ironing board were in the basement, and she would normally iron on Tuesdays, but sometimes, she was going out or something, she'd iron something at night, and these things, like you said, Diane, they would jump at her, and we would hear her. Sometimes I'd be up in my room on the second floor, and I'd hear we called them hoppers just because they hop so high. And so with those long antennae and those long legs, you're looking at an insect that's probably over 2 inches. the body itself isn't that large, but when you add all the outside parts on it, these are an impressive presence. So much, and they are so, I don't want to say prevalent because they really aren't everywhere, but there are some very high populations of them, so much so that in this book, which if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And Kim, thank you if you're on tonight for loaning me your copy. I was so inspired, I bought my own, and then I loaned both copies that I had out, even the one that wasn't mine. It is such a fascinating read. Rob Dunn, North Carolina State professor, just started looking. He was an ecology major who, like all ecology majors, envisioned going, to the Costa Rican rainforest and discovering some, never before seen species of plants or animal. And he ran into all sorts of other ecologists with the same dreams. So he decided to focus on those organisms that we share our living space with. Well, there's all kinds of cool stories in this book, but there is an entire chapter on these camel crickets and the surveys that have been done. There are native species that tend to hang out in dark, moist areas like caves, which leads to their other common name, the cave cricket. But students in his lab, they did a survey about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, asking people to send in, I don't know if it was photos or actual specimens from their basements. And they found there's one that's called the greenhouse camel cricket. And that's probably, because my dad always said that we didn't have those hoppers until he planted another dirty word, the euonymus around as the ground cover around the house. But he always felt like those creatures showed up after he started planting these things, which at that time in the 60s, a lot of the landscaping trends were with non-native plants. But they are still at my mom's house. I actually caught a couple maybe 2 years ago and kept them in a terrarium. I wanted to see if I could get them to lay some eggs, but one day I had the cover off at my house and they hopped out. I don't know where they went. Cat probably ate them. But
I don't think you have never talked about these before. I don't think in this program.
I don't know that I had. That was probably pre-pandemic.
Oh, okay. Because I just thought they were really, really fascinating. And I think I read that they're not really crickets.
They're
not in the cricket family.
I can't speak to the taxonomy. I suppose we could look a little bit on Bug Guide and see how that plays out. But
they don't chirp. I know that. I definitely read that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, your photos reminded me of this photo. This is this probably was either 69 or 70. I was heavily into the Chicago Cubs at the time. We'd had the big brush with an almost championship pennant in 69. And like I just love bugs. And this was one that I had. This was actually at our next door neighbor's house. I put it over to show Aunt Esther, and she took a picture of it. But they are, you could just, so that's a say a 8-year-old's hand. And that's a good sized insect. I'm wondering now, when I share the screen, is that, I don't know if you're seeing me search. I was gonna pull up that study that Rob Dunn students did, but let's see, let's go to Camel Cricket Bug Guide and see what the taxonomy is. Are you guys able to see what I'm searching here? So they're considered orthopterans, but they are in their own family, the Rhaphidophoridae. And they have other names here, cave and sand treader. But yeah, I've heard that name spider. In fact, I think some people call them sprickets because they're part spider and part cricket.
Yes,
Or
yeah,
look like
I did read that.
wingless and unable to chirp, up to 25 millimeters long, able to jump several feet, which can be startling. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I just read it. They are related to grasshoppers, locusts, and crickets. I think what I had read is that they're not actually spiders. That's
Okay.
what I think I had read. Yeah.
And here it says they're omnivorous, so they'll eat on almost anything organic. Most will catch and eat other small animals when they can. In houses, they chew on paper products and occasionally on fabric. Yeah, super cool find, and brought back some memories. And also we have this literature connection. So if any of you are interested in this book, I do have my copy back, and I'd be glad to loan it to you. Just let me know. It's also, you can download it on your Kindle or check it out from the library. Really good. One person I loaned it out to was not happy because it did talk about a lot of things like that live in your water heater and your freezer. Bacteria that are from the Arctic and from hot springs and geysers, and they've made their way into our living spaces. One more thing, they looked at the biota, the things that live on our own bodies. And there's a really interesting chapter in how foods that are made in houses where they're manipulated with the hands, whether it's bread dough or used the example of kimchi too. Different households will have different flavors because of people, because they're just, different microfauna present in those locations. So super cool read. And yes, there's a chapter on camel crickets. In fact, it's even listed there on the cover. So thanks, Diane, for those. And for this. This is one of the great advantages of travel. Now, and you can see wheel bugs here in Illinois, but I'm not aware of any that have been found this far north. They're all over southern Illinois. It's a true bug, but it's in the predator side of the true bug group. This I love the Scotch tape for size reference. And look, so here we've got how the animal gets its name, the wheel bug. It's got this big projection on the back here. Looks like the cogs of a gear or a wheel. But I also had somebody tell me there is that homophone word, wheel, W-E-A-L. It's like a welt that can form. And that person was telling me that he always felt it should be the wheel, W-E-A-L bug, because of the pain that you're in should you get bitten by him. This is an insect that injects chemicals, pre-digests its prey, and slurps out the insides with its piercing and sucking mouth part that it keeps tucked underneath its mouth, its head right here. That's the red structure that's underneath the head. These are good size bugs too, so they can take on pretty good size prey. And I believe they feed on stink bugs, amongst other things. So nice pictures here too, Diane. Was this a chair you were sitting on?
Well, I was in the kitchen, but I could see out onto the porch, and there was some furniture. There's like a small couch and a couple benches made out of this plastic material. And I looked out and I saw this huge bug, and I didn't recognize what it was until I looked at it from the side, and I immediately recognized the wheel that we had talked about once before, that you had talked about once before.
Gotcha.
it was classic.
Yeah. It was just kind of sunning itself here, huh? Wasn't
Yeah,
feeding
exactly. It
on
stayed there for a
anything.
while too. I didn't disturb it, and it just hung out there in the sun for I don't know how long, over an hour at least.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. If I like and again, I don't believe there's been any sighted locally, as in northern Illinois, but going downstate, it is. I remember I was down at I think it was Heron Pond or that area of southern Illinois. Um, and there was one on the boardwalk, and that profile with, this such a definitive structure on its back, and there's no other true bugs, or no other insects that have a projection like that. It was just really cool, and I was tempted to pick it up, and that's when I learned about how they that piercing and sucking mouth part can pierce human skin, and it's one guy said, "Oh, you'll feel like you got struck by lightning." I did pick up another bug down there, a smaller assassin bug. It was dark in color. I don't think I ever identified it to genus or species, but it poked a hole in my thumb, and that hole was there for probably 2 weeks. It was sort of painful, but it was such a cool story. I didn't mind, you know, dealing with it and telling the story. But it was a bug that bonked its head on a light, and when I picked it up, it decided to bite me. So I can only imagine it was maybe a third of the size of this bug. But so they're part of the insect predator team as well. Nice finds, and thank you, Diane, for all those lovely pictures.
You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that they like stink bugs, because we had so many stink bugs on that porch. So now that you say that, it makes sense that this one would show up.
Okay, yeah.
So that's good to know.
With the food out there. Well, and that reminds me, you sent a video too. Let's stop this share. I'm going to see if I can get the video to play too. Let's see. I gotta get.
The stink bug wrapping.
This is the it's a wrap. I believe you, like all great directors, you named your film. Can't play. Hold on. All right, it was playing fine before the program started, so let's just stop again. Let's see. No. All right, I'm going to stop the share. I know I'm going to go to where I saved it. Two. No, okay. I bet I'm watching this and you guys aren't.
No, we can see it.
You can see it? Oh, cool.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let me, Diane, I thought this was so interesting. So here's a stink bug that this orb weaver has so kindly wrapped up. Look at her fangs. We don't often get to see spider mouth parts in action, but we've got her legs here on the sides, but then right here, there's these two curved little structures. Those are her mouth, those are her fangs. And she is, I don't know if she's doing some test bites or maybe adding some extra venom, but spiders, so they have the fangs, and the fangs are like the injection part of a needle. Venom is injected through those fangs, and then behind those fangs are the actual chewing mouth parts. And I wish I could slow this down. Let me just drag it slowly. So it opens Opens her jaws, takes a bite, opens, bites, opens, bites. Oh. All right, I can just keep doing this. It's so cool. But I think she was, you know, making sure that it was fully injected after she had a bite. So she was taking little bites. She might even be feeding on it there from the underside. It'd be hard to bite through the shell on the top, but she might be taking bites from underneath. Nom, 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 nom. And we're done. Wasn't that cool? Let's watch. Let me go back here again. Not sure what she's doing because that would be the back of the back of the insect there, but over here, definitely taking some bites underneath. Great angle. Oh boy. I could just watch that over and over.
I think
yeah.
when she starts leaving and heading up the drag line, I think I actually had gotten too close to her and I scared her and I was really annoyed with myself because I think she would have continued her injecting and wrapping, but I think I got my phone too close to her.
Yeah, they get funny about that sometimes. Like the night I was filming the spiders that were mating, they got offended eventually, and then I felt like I was prying too much, so I left. But yeah, some great footage there too, and I think we're actually seeing some feeding there with the open, with the fangs, you know, pulled apart and going in and taking bites. So
you know, it was interesting because that web was on the porch for probably a month and I kept watching it and she wasn't always there. She was often hidden. But I saw several stink bugs get caught in the web, but because they're so sturdy and they can wiggle and they would generally drop out.
Oh, interesting.
So this was a prize capture, I think.
And so she had already, looks like she had already got it wrapped pretty well.
Yeah, she pretty quickly went to this one and wrapped it up.
He wasn't gonna let another one get away.
Right, because as I say, I saw like 3 of them and they would get in the web and then they would just keep wiggling. And of course they're pretty heavy anyway. And they would just drop down into the bushes and they were okay. But
did you see her? Did she, when she would approach the stink bug, did you notice any biting before she started wrapping, or did she just wrap right away, or didn't you know?
No, this one I didn't see when the stink bug landed in or got caught.
Okay.
So, and the stink bug was still wiggling a little bit when I first saw it.
Okay.
But it wasn't wiggling that much. So it's possible that she had injected it a bit before I started filming.
And that's something too that varies with species. I know, I think it's the Argiops, the garden spiders, the big black and yellow spiders. They will wrap their prey really tightly in silk without biting it. So they just wrap it alive and then they feed on it later. And so there's differences in, even though they're orb weavers and they're trapping insects, there's differences in how they process what they've caught. And this, I just thought that was such a great angle. Was this, Diane, was this by chance in the evening, or was it broad daylight, or? Maybe you're muted. I don't know. I can't hear you, Diane. Again, my computer audio went out last
Oh,
week.
no, I'm
Oh, there
sorry.
you are.
It was
There
me.
you
I'm sorry. I have to look at my photo, but I think it was during the day, but I
Okay.
couldn't get a good shot because of the way because of the light.
Gotcha. Because these orb weavers oftentimes will reconstruct their web in the early evening and then hang out in the middle of it at night. But this might either be a diurnal one, or it might be, if she catches something like this in the daytime, she'll come out, because they oftentimes will have a layer away from the center of the orb, in a, depending on where the web is, in a rafter or a gutter, or, something nearby. But they do stay out of sight, because they can be prey too. They can be a tasty morsel for a bird. So
No, Pam, I was wrong. I just looked it up. It was September 15th and it was 6 o'clock at night.
okay, so about the time when she might be getting up. This might have been breakfast then.
Mhm.
For overnight adventures. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you sending all those, Diane. For some reason, you had sent the other one, the Mason wasp, and I thought I had loaded that one in too, but it didn't seem to. Oh, that's we don't need to watch that. That was a whole Zoom program. All right, I'll stop the share because there's nothing here. There we go. Laura had sent a picture of a bird's nest I was going to share with you guys too, but I sometimes, I'll hit upload to photos and it works, and sometimes it won't. So I'm going to try showing this just off of my phone, and we'll see. We had a breezy day the other day. I don't know if that's gonna work or not. Well, maybe if I go close, yeah, it's still pretty grainy. No, that works. So Laura found this nest, blew out of a tree over the weekend. If we look, and what'd I do? Oh, the phone went blank. All right, let's try it again. Generally, in our area, when we find a loosely woven nest like this, and that looks like it's got some pine needles and some hair in it, my inclination is chipping sparrow. Laura, I think that's what I had texted you.
Mhm.
I know there's another, well, let's see, I think tufted titmice, I think they use animal hair as they incorporate into their nest, but I'm kind of thinking for the location it was found at, that's going to be my final answer is chipping sparrow, just because of the way it's so loosely they chip, or I don't know how many nests they make that don't last or don't stay where they're supposed to, because I've seen several that have blown out of a tree right in the midst of nestings and without, prior to having eggs in them, but they just, besides having hair, in fact, the chipping sparrow was also known as the hair bird back in the day when people traveled by horses. It was quite common for them to collect horsehair and incorporate into their nests. But
I think it's so amazing how they can, kind of weave the pine needles, or just shape the pine needles along with the hair.
yeah,
It's so cool. I've seen some examples, not at my house, but I was like, oh, I found one that came out of our white pine tree, and the other one that blows out of the white pine tree are the mourning dove nests, which are like, I don't even know if you can call them nests because they're like
They
the
are
worst
the,
couple sticks put together, you know?
they are the underachievers of nest
Right,
building.
right.
In
Oh,
fact, I found, I was looking, this was a couple of springs ago. I was looking for morels over at Potawatomi at the embankment at the south end of the park. And so I'm looking down on the ground and I see this baby bird, and it was a little, maybe 2-day-old or so mourning dove. And I thought, oh, I better put it back in its nest. It was like, it was like this. It was a few little sticks in it. It wasn't even level. It was no wonder the little guy fell out.
they're pretty, they sound pretty, but I don't know, bird brain might be
Yeah.
might be good for them.
They're uncomplicated. They don't want to
There
be
we go.
bogged
That's a
down
nice
with,
way. That's a nice way of
trying
putting
to
it.
weave and blend and construct things. But yeah, so that's I'm gonna stick with chipping the sparrow, Laura, unless something else comes to mind. But they are, I think, of any of the nests around here that are have any sort of substance to them, they are the ones most likely to blow down. And since there was some hair there in the bottom of it, we're gonna go with that.
Sounds good. Although I like saying that I had a what was the other one? Tufted titmouse.
Tufted
That would be fun.
titmouse. Yeah, well,
Maybe I'll just say that just because it's more fun to say. We'll go with chipping sparrow.
your tree, your nest, Laura. You call it what you want.
Okay.
That's pretty much all I have tonight, folks. I did though. Oh, there's one announcement I wanted to make. Some of you have already signed up, and it's much appreciated. Signed up through the end of the year. However, on Tuesday, Tuesday, December the 6th, we are not going to have a good-natured program. I'm going to get more information on where I'll be, but Ryan Solomon, our lead restoration ecologist here at the Park District, he is part of the Conservation Foundation's Next Generation Advisory Council, and they are planning an event called Conservation on Tap. It's an evening program. He was a little concerned that they were following too closely on the green drinks model, but some of you might be familiar with the green drinks social gatherings that occurred pre-pandemic. It hasn't really gotten going post-pandemic, but Conservation on Tap will feature a speaker, maybe some short stories, and the on tap part, in case it's not obvious, would involve frosty beverages. So I'll get more information on that, but that event is on December 6th. So instead of Good Natured, I'll be doing that. And any of you who have signed up, I'll send you an email as a reminder too, that we'll be taking that week off from the Zoom.
Pam, I signed up today for November and December, and it only went to the 13th.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Yeah. I thought that marketing said they had done it through the end of the year, but it's just as it is for you guys, kind of clunky and tedious to sign up for week after week. It's the same way on the other end, setting it up. And so she might have thought when she got to December that she had to be close to the end, but I'll let her know to extend it.
At least that's the experience I had. I couldn't go past the 13th. So that
is good to know. I will let her know. I'll pass it on, and we'll punch it off. A couple of months. Maybe I can get her to go, because they're right now on the marketing department is working on the winter program guide. So and that goes through the end of February. So I'll have her extend the registrations through then. And that's about the time when the Park District reviews how they're doing things, and who knows, we might get a third registration platform. We'll see. But anyway, keep you posted on that. But no Good Natured Hour on Tuesday, December the 6th. Right? Looks like we had a couple or three chats here. Never Home Alone is only $13.64 on Amazon. Such a deal. Well, thanks for looking that up, Jerry. It is a really good book. Highly recommend it. Okay, great to see you. Ralph, what is the date of what is the date? What were we talking about?
I think they're asking about the
Oh.
December 6th date.
So yes, Tuesday, December 6th, my parents' anniversary, and the day before Pearl Harbor Day, and the location has yet to be determined. So when I find out, like it was just Ryan sent me a save the date, and I wanted to get the word out to you guys. I will find out and pass along more information as it develops on the Conservation on Tap gathering. Sound like a plan? All right, everybody. Looks like our time is up for tonight. Much appreciate everybody signing in. Great to see and hear from so many of you. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll do it again next Tuesday night. Take
Thank
care,
you, Pam.
everybody.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thanks, Pam. Good night.
Hang it there.
Thanks,